Well, the ECB meets tomorrow for its high tea with President Christine Lagarde. She's always been, well, not always been, but I have to say recently been rather dovish, trying to keep that euro under pressure. Let's see what's the latest with Peter McGuire, XM CEO. Hi, Peter. Thank you for joining us again on the program. I have to say, Christine Lagarde tried her best to outdove the Fed at every turn, but things have changed recently. What's going on over there at the ECB?
Well, good afternoon, Annette. Yeah, I think it's a race to see who can outfox each other as far as Fed versus ECB. It's a tough angle. They've also got to contain inflation running at around about 3%. So they've got their hands full, and we all understand what the PEP is as far as the pandemic purchase, as far as assets. So we're running at around about that 80 billion per month euro. They're looking at dipping it down over time to about 60 billion. And in turn, you've got around about 1.85 trillion in that envelope to spend up until about March of next year.
Don't you think it's interesting, Peter, that even the ECB changed its policy target because inflation had to be below 2, now it can be around 2, but that still hasn't stopped all this speculation. Could we get hit with a dovish belting tomorrow night?
I wouldn't be surprised in a lot of ways because it's running at that 3% and it seems to be on an upward march. So it's going to be very hard to contain. And I think that's going to be a dilemma for a lot of central bankers around the world as far as inflation taking off and continuing to be on that upper band. So, yes, I'm not sure how Lagarde's going to play this. She's got to be very careful because naturally the concern is going to be you've got the what's happening with other central bankers and where does that euro trade? We're sitting at around that 119, 119.50 sort of handle. And there's every chance it could push up to around that 120. So you've got strengthening US dollar, as you mentioned earlier, as far as gold, all of those ingredients going into a very, very big melting pot.
So in terms of the actual, how the economy is faring, I mean, the economies are reopened to various degrees. Unemployment rate is still pretty high. Is that a good backdrop to say, look, just cool your jets, we're not going yet?
I think so in a lot of ways. I feel as though that, we've only just got out of that in the sense of what was introduced in March. And that was the issue because we had that double dip recession going back to, over that winter period. And then we've had high vaccination numbers and the turnaround since, April, May and the reopening of as far as Europe. So that's the one concern, but there's still a large segment of the population needs to be re-engaged as far as workforce. And I think that that's going to be, in some ways, it'll play interestingly for any central banker and certainly Lagarde and her team and their objectives over the next matter of months.
So, Peter, would you be putting your hard-earned dollars on a long euro position or it's too close to call?
I think so. I think that there's possibly further upside in the short term to medium term. Don't take your eye off the ball either, Annette, that we've got that German election on the 26th of September. We're only about 2 and a bit weeks away. So that's going to be interesting how that all plays out also. So there's the consideration. I think that there's a little bit further upside, and I think there'll be a little bit of pressure to the downside as far as US dollar. So that could be an interesting trade.
In terms of tonight, we've got our commodity cousin, the Bank of Canada. They led the way by tapering way back in April, which seems like a lifetime ago. Since then, It's been a bit of a rocky road. Is anyone expecting anything from the BOC tonight?
I missed that.
So in terms of the Bank of Canada tonight, when they first introduced the taper, the economy was all good guns, but then there's been a series of restrictions. GDP went backwards. Is anything likely to come out of the Bank of Canada tonight?
I'm not expecting so. I don't think there'll be any surprises. I think that they won't be doing any dramatic moves. And I feel as though that it'll be very much over the next matter of months, just keeping an even keel. We're also understanding Trudeau's trying to have a snap election. So there's the first part. But I don't think they're going to follow suit in the sense where we've had those 5 central banks that have raised rates in recent times being Russia, Hungary, South Korea, Brazil and Mexico, I don't think Canada's going to be number 6 anytime soon.